DBS. I got a good friend of mine, Julie. She gave me that one there. Her and her husband Al. Big credit to them on it. I get that fear. The fear of the unknown. What I don't get is crippling yourself to such a degree that you're willing to acquiesce all of your civil rights, your constitutional rights, for this false sense of security. Because what happens when you give them all up and you still get sick anyway, and you've given them up for nothing? And I think our conversation about slavery is a very appropriate one here, because one of the things that I like to pride myself on is when we have these conversations like this, that we have the ability to tie them together. We talked about Nazis. We talked about, the fascist regimes. We talked about the history of slavery. Now let's look forward into the future. And what are we looking at here? We're looking at the creation literally of a caste system, because that is what slavery was, a caste system that is dictated by the left. And you are literally given your sustenance as long as you abide by how they tell you to abide. And that's going to create such a disincentivization for people to create, to be, to work hard. Because when the government decides it's going to pay you and house you and clothe you and feed you, what's the value? And I say this all the time. Something given has no value. And if the government is just giving you all this, have we not created 21st century slaves?
Exactly. Anything that they give to us, in the end, it just comes from us.
I think the thing that scares me too is like when you take a look at all the money that we're spending on all these programs and everything else, all these stimuluses and everything. How long can we go before we break the back of the economic system that we have here? And this is where my fear of the unknown comes in.
I don't think we can go much longer.
Because this is where my fear of the unknown comes into play. Is there something else better on the horizon, or is it worse? Are we going down the road of the Weimar Republic, or are we going to be like Nigeria, where everyone's a millionaire? That's what scares me.
It's that great unknown.
Trippy,
and
man.
I think the best way I like to, and I try to argue with people, and I know it's hard not to argue with people, but the best thing that I try to argue with people is reopening the states while practicing safe health guidelines, such as 6 feet apart, having hand sanitizer and wipe stations. If people want to wear masks, let them wear masks. That's on them. Or if people want to stay home, that's on them. But if we open up sooner, it's going to help us. And it's going to help people that are employed by small businesses or who own small businesses so that they don't go down and burn. And the best quote that I like to use is from General Patton. A good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And I think that's what a lot of people are fearing right now is, they're looking at any plan as a bad plan, but they're not willing to even take a look at what the plan is. How do you not do that?
It's questionable as to what people really think. Sometimes I just can't even wrap my head around some people's ideologies. I think they just want to go with the flow. It's easier to just say what someone else is saying than actually looking into it themselves.
Well, I think this is where we have a serious flaw in our educational system as a whole, and I think we've had this for years. And I'll tell you, as a young man, I got to tell you, man, I am truly impressed. Just number one, in your conversational ability and being able to maintain this conversation. Because most people around your age, plus minus whatever, don't have the understanding of having this conversation as it relates to history, as it relates to the Constitution. So I definitely got to give you a hat tip to that. You know, let me look real quick here in the chat room, real quick, sir. Brother John here, you just mentioned that Rand Paul, coronavirus spreading, moving U.S. closer to the brink of no return. And he posts a link on there. So if you guys got a chance to click that link, make sure you check it out. Because we are getting to the point of, that little point of no return where there's no coming back. Where we're literally going to break things. We can sit here and hope that the next economic system is going to be better than what we have today, sustainable. But let's go back to what I was talking about here. Now, in light of your understanding of the Constitution and everything, obviously here in the state of Wisconsin, California, several other states around the union here, there's been a lot of rallies to open up the small businesses and everything else, using those safer parameters. Talk to me a little bit about, because you were at one of the rallies, if I recall correctly, weren't you?
I was at the Brookfield Square event.
So you got
it was truly wonderful. I have to say, I feel great. I have no symptoms whatsoever from COVID-19, and I probably won't get any because, again, we know how to practice safe health while living our everyday lives.
As Hilario, as like the Russians would say, strong like bull. But no, seriously though, I've been watching too much of the YouTube Yo Mama videos. Hilarious stuff if you haven't checked it out. But seriously though, they've got all these protests out here. Now, Raleigh, North Carolina, there was a protest trying to get the states to open up. Law enforcement was out there telling people that your rally is non-essential. Did you catch that?
Oh, my God. Oh, no. I got to really see. I've been busy making phone calls for the Republican Party and stuff. I don't really get too much time to look at this stuff. I got to start looking at these now.
Well, that's what I'm here for, brother. That's what I'm here.
Terrible.
That's what I'm here for. Because when you look at what you're doing here, you're literally exercising your First Amendment right. Because what is the First Amendment? Is the freedom of religion, the freedom of assembly, the freedom of press. The First Amendment was there, and it literally protects hate speech. But nobody wants to say that anymore because, hate is a terrible thing. And it pisses me off to no end when people say that, because when you talk about, love conquers all, love don't do shit. Let's just be honest about that. Mm-hmm. And you're not a whole person if all you're doing is looking at just love without acknowledging your hate. It is literally two sides of one coin. Now, if you can't acknowledge those two sides of one coin, then not only are you not a whole person, but how can you understand your fundamental rights? And that fundamental right, when you talk about, again, First Amendment, that First Amendment was there in order to protect you so that you could address political redress. And that's usually done with assembly. Because what is it that the framers were fighting against? I mean, obviously taxation without representation. But they were also fighting against the idea that, we assemble together to try to address an issue, but you're going to try to squash us. It's almost like we're trying to live 1776 all over again.
Exactly. They want to have only certain things be said, a certain lifestyle that they want to be done, and many of the British occupants within the colonies looked down. Even the British within England itself looked down upon colonists at their ideas and wanting to have those certain rights to be able to speak. Because, they gave them kind of you would say, a few places to speak at within the British government, but it was not enough to do anything. It was just to appease them, make it look like something's getting done or that they get to speak. And
they would throw them a bone.
Unfortunate that
They would just throw them a
It's
bone.
very, yeah, they're told to go home. And of course, because of that, we got Boston Massacre and the shot heard around the world. And
Hmm. Well, it's interesting too because, if you look back just a couple of years ago, there was there were some rallies, with the Tea Party and everything, and what they would do is they would cordon off other areas and they would call them so-called free speech zones. And it was interesting because I went to one of the first Tea Party rallies back in 2009 when I lived down in Raleigh, North Carolina. And it was amazing to go to this rally, talk to people, and when the rally was done, actually the park actually looked cleaner than when it did from the get-go, which is something that nobody on the left can
mm-hmm,
say. But they moved on to this, in other places where the Tea Party started springing up, they created these free speech zones, and I never quite understood that because it was like, wait a minute, what are you telling me that my free speech zone is 500 yards away in a 20 by 20 area that was fenced off? Oh, no, 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 no. Let me just go ahead and put myself in the barrel with the other fish. You know, I, last I checked, according
mm-hmm.
to the Constitution, the free speech zone went across all 50 states and all U.S. territories. But, maybe that's just me. You don't just restrict. You accept it all or you don't accept any of it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm worked up, bro.
It's I don't know, just people, they amaze me
Now, let me ask
every
you.
day, and there's,
Go ahead, please.
oh no, you go ahead. I lost my train of thought. I forgot what I was going to even say
No
while I
problem.
was saying it.
No problem, brother. No brother. So I got. This is, and I'm gonna wrap this up here pretty soon. But this, I think, coming, as a young man, I would love to know what is it that you're fighting for? Because most people that are your age, at the age of 19, aren't very politically astute. They're not very well learned, very well read. And let's not even get into the conversational part of it. Clearly, you could hold your own. And like I said, respect on that. So I got to ask you,
Thank
what
you.
drives you, man? Because for me personally, I look at what drives me is my children, my wife, my family. I look at the sacrifices that my father, my grandfather have made for this country. And I think to myself, you know what? I want my children to have a better future than I had. And I had a pretty damn good upbringing. So when I think about the reason I fight is for my children, for my family, for my wife, you know, and I see you constantly, doing your thing on social media because in all honesty, a lot of us, this is where kind of the battleground has moved to. What's your motivation, brother? What gets you going?
Well, it's, I would say there's a lot of things that really motivate me, and I am one who I have an old soul. I really do. I just
Hmm.
never really gotten along with too many people my age. I always fought because I could not understand the way that people my age think. Like, why do you think that? And I try to relate it back to, and I'm a big history nut, and I do Civil War reenacting. And
Right.
every time I put on a uniform that I wear for the Union Army, or just I post something, or I talk to people when it comes to politics, I really think back to that. History is what makes us,
Hmm.
whether we learn from it or we don't. It's what makes us. And if we lose our history and understanding as to where we come from as a people, our future itself will be lost.
Yep.
We will lose all sense. And so every time that I get political or I try to be, I want to, of course, one day run for public office and not fight for me. It's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just another pawn or another knight, as one would say,
Yep.
in a bigger fight. And I want to fight for every other person except not me, everyone else around me, the people that love me and the people that hate me. I want to fight for them so that they can continue to live in what I believe is one of the greatest countries in the world. I want them to be able to have a good upbringing, a good time to enjoy life,
Mm-hmm.
or not enjoy life. That's their choice. I can't force them. But I'm fighting for everyone else. I want them to have that chance. I want to make the world, everyone says make the world a better place. Yes, I agree. But we can't do that if we don't hold on to our past. I want to keep the past alive so that we as a people may have a future. That's pretty much it.
Well, I think the it is very cliche to say, I want to make the world a better place. Oh, excuse me one second.
Mm-hmm.
It is very cliche to say, I just want to make the world a better place. But when you think about this here, whether it's through a phone call, a one-on-one conversation, however you want to frame it, you make the world a better place one person at a time, having that conversation with people. You know, those intimate moments that you have with, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, your kids, your son, your daughter, whatever. When you meet somebody and you shake hands, when you have this conversation like you and I are having right now, and the folks that are listening in right now, because I mean, I was taking a
Mm-hmm.
look at some of my stats, man. I got folks all over the place that are just checking in. I had people from Japan, France, South Africa, Taiwan. I mean, it was just beautiful to see. But through these little conversations, you make those influences and those positive changes, one person at a time. And what I love about what you're talking about is that it's not about you. It's to get people to literally, and I'm gonna paraphrase here, maximize and get the best they can out of their own lives. Am I off base on that?
Mm, I agree. And it's as long as, and my brother is just like me. He's 2 years older than me, and we agree with that. As long as you make a positive impact on someone's life,
Mm-hmm.
whether it is for a couple days, months, years, or even if it's just 1 second, that can change a person's whole world. I
Right.
mean, let's say someone's having a terrible day. If you come by and you just share that bit of human compassion and understand, sometimes it just takes listening to people, sit there, not talk and listen. That's what I like to do. I like to listen to people, hear what they
Mm-hmm.
have to say, and try and relate it to my life so that
Right.
I can make myself a better person, so that I can take that better person and bring that to other people and maybe show them that, hey, yeah, life is crazy, but enjoy it while it's here because it is short.
When it's something we often talk about here on this show, I often preach about people just going out there and become the best version of yourself you can be. And it's difficult because every day you want to make sure that it's better than the day before. And sometimes